French lycée. So welcome to both of you. The debate subject, the motion is today, scientific exploration of space is a waste of resources. Scientific exploration of space is a waste of resources. After the toss of the coin with Julie earlier on, Belver will be going first for the motion, and then French lycée against the motion. May I introduce you to your judges today, which are Graham Whitmore, whom you all know already, that is
Morning all.
will be the spokesperson for the jury, more than ably assisted by David Titton, whom you also know, and Jackie Cott of H Concern. Now, if we're all ready, I will hand straight over to Belver to start the debate.
Good morning. Can we have James up to the podium, please? James, if you just indicate when you're ready, I'll start the timer.
Okay. Good morning, ladies, esteemed judges, and members of the opposing team. Today, me and my fellow teammates will leave you in no doubt that space exploration is a waste of resources. First, allow me to break down some key terms. Exploration is the action of exploring an unfamiliar area. Waste is to use or expend to no purpose, and a resource is a stock or supply of money, materials, staff, and other assets. What is the purpose of the exploration of space? Is it the betterment of mankind? The opposing team would certainly have you believe it. However, if that were true, why then did the first men on the moon plant the American flag? If space exploration is about the betterment of mankind, then they would have planted the flag of the UN or something similar. Instead, they planted the flag of the United States. Why? It is because the exploration of space is simply another way for nations to boast. It is not for the sake of science, it's just another way to inspire petty patriotism and the belief that your country is better than others. Take the US, for example. They spend roughly $40 billion a year on the space exploration alone. This is a nation trillions of dollars in debt, a nation where 1 in 8 families live below the poverty line, spending $40 billion sending rockets into space, not for the sake of science, but for the sake of glory. If that's not a waste of resources, then I don't know what is. And the US is not the only nation. Many other countries are engaged in this petty squabble, spending billions of taxpayer money whilst their people starve on the streets. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. Even when we make it out of this, we will still have to spend lots of resources helping businesses recover, helping people get re-employed. We can't waste vital government resources shooting rockets into space. We need to get our priorities in order. We're also in the middle of a climate crisis. We need to adapt if we are to save our planet. And this adaptation will require vital resources which are currently being spent on exploring space. We need to get our priorities in order. We can't spend valuable resources analyzing other planets whilst our own planet is on fire. Let's dedicate these resources to helping our world before we begin exploring others. To summarize, we begin that like charity begins at home, so too does the spending of valuable resources have to be dedicated to solving the crises here at home and not wasting our money on a galactic ego trip. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Can I have Nico for French lycée? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do we want to actually explore space? What are we really looking for? What do we hope to find there that will actually help us to achieve a better life? Space exploration is the use of astronomy and space technology to explore outer space. While the exploration of space is carried out mainly by astronomers with telescopes, its physical exploration is conducted both by unmanned robotic space probes and human spaceflight. Space exploration, like its classical form astronomy, is one of the main sources for space science. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Nicolas, and we at the Lycée Français de Palma strongly believe that scientific exploration of space is absolutely not a waste of resources and will never be. Alex will talk about the benefits of space exploration for the population, whereas Damien will expose how curiosity is a leading factor in human behavior and development. Nowadays, a great amount of countries have their own space exploration programs, such as the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, known as the NASA, in the United States, or the European Space Agency, ESA, in Europe. These programs have a respective budget of $23 billion for the NASA and $7 billion for the ESA. This may sound like an extortionate amount, but have you ever wondered how many people live on this industry and how in the long run this will improve humans' life, as planet Earth will not offer appropriate conditions for us in 100
You have a
years?
point of interest?
You mentioned the amount of people living of the space industry, but my question to you is, are there more poor people or people employed by the space industry?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, you mentioned the amount of people employed by the space industry. However, my question to you, are there more poor people or more people living of the space industry?
Are there more poor people or more people living in the space industry?
Oh, well, Alex will get to that later. Well, this really proves how necessary space exploration actually is for the survival of the human race. Thanks to these funds, nearly 17,000 individuals are employed by the NASA, without taking into account the many more people that work with the agency as government contractors. These people are hired by companies that NASA pays to do work. The ESA, on the other hand, employs around 2,200 staff and many more people who live indirectly of this industry. Moreover, even though some people may say that we are in the biggest economical crisis since 1930, one of the most successful responses to that crisis was to pump money into infrastructure and technology. It was called Roosevelt's New Deal. It was controversial at the time, but by the end of that decade, the USA was the most powerful nation.
You have a point of interest?
I'm sorry, I won't take any further points of information. Finally, space exploration has led to discoveries such as the launching of the first satellite in space, Sputnik 1. This has encouraged lots of young people and made them interested in scientific exploration of space, creating, consequently, generations of skillful and knowledgeable aerospace, robotics, computer engineers, astrophysicists, and so on. We have also seen proof of this when Neil Armstrong was first seen walking on the moon.
Final
Who
minute.
doesn't know this man? He's a legend, an idol for many young kids that went on and were inspired by this man, and they went on to study in the science fields. Carrying on with all this research will continue to inspire many generations of young people, which will discover new things and will allow future generations to adapt and evolve in new living conditions. Judges, opponent team, audience, thank you.
Thank you. We have Ika, please. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
The amount of money spent on space investigation and research is in the billions. And it is a big surprise to know that it has achieved extraordinarily little, except for a bit of improved technology, which would have probably have come out anyway by other means. Whether or not venturing into outer space is a suitable choice, the thing is that we are facing extremely severe issues here on Earth. These include the disappearance of the rainforest, pollution of the oceans, desertification, melting ice caps, poverty, drought, famine, to name a few. Yet, we're spending money to venture into space. Why are we running away from our problems instead of solving them? Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, esteemed judges, and members of the opposing team. I'm Miguel Batidor, the second speaker of the affirmative team, and we're going to show you that by the end of this debate, you do not doubt that the scientific exploration of space is a waste of resources. We know that civilizations collapse around about 500 years, before which you have big cities, people in the countryside servicing those cities. But inevitably, the greed of development leads to the extinction of a culture. And this is exactly what is happening to us today. As I said before, we're experiencing
Do
climate
you have a bit of interest?
accepted.
You're talking a lot about money. So my question is, do you believe that throwing money at an issue will solve it?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, you're talking a lot about money. And my question to you is, do you believe that throwing money at an issue will solve it?
Well, my question is, why then are we spending money on charities that help people who are starving on the streets? Does this help to the people that are starving? Obviously, money helps to solve some issues that otherwise would be unattended. So I think that your point is a bit invalid. As I said before, if the collapse of civilizations is a recurring theme, then we should be looking at ways for managing the planet's resources in order to make how we live sustainably. The way to do that is not to go charging off into space, wasting unbelievable quantities of money in pursuit of some chimera that we want one day come back with some valuable mineral. Now, let's talk about the benefits of space exploration. As of today, there have been only little benefits of space exploration. Do not get me wrong, there are plenty of indirect benefits of space exploration. Memory foam is great. But the thing is that scientists and inventors could give us the same byproducts for a lot less costly if the associated space exploration was removed from the equation. All the byproducts of the space race could have been developed by commercial companies aiming to make a profit by developing good products and selling them at a fraction of that cost. For example, the Post-it note is possibly as successful as memory foam, but was developed at $3 million at a fraction of that cost. Furthermore, a lot of the advances of space exploration bring us is irrelevant in our day-to-day life. Why bother spending money developing a pen that works in zero gravity when A, a pencil will do, and B, the vast majority of people will never experience zero gravity? Space exploration.
You have another point of interest?
Accepted.
So you clearly stated that space exploration has done extremely little. However, it is this space exploration that is going to allow us to pursue humankind in reality, because if it weren't to exploration of Mars and other planets, humankind would probably have disappeared in less than a century. So is this extremely little to you?
Well, let me ask you a question. Does the loss of human life at the expenditure of billions and billions of dollars on an ego trip constitute a waste of resources? I think so. As I was saying, space exploration is a legitimate enterprise, but the needs of humanity should take precedence over its desires. We need to look after our own planet. and combat the multitude of problems that affect us. We ought to consider those suffering from starvation. We ought to consider this before spending millions and millions of pounds on the small chance of learning something new. Rather than looking at the stars, we ought to look around us and focus on solving problems facing our generation and those many to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Alex, please? Alex, before you begin, could you just center your camera a bit more? That's better. Yes, thank you.
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. So can you start?
You start now.
Okay. Good morning. According to studies performed in the last years by companies such as the GFE Techno Research Corporation, if it wasn't for NASA, SpaceX, ESA, ISRO, Roscosmos, or other space agencies investing in the electronic components field, this is what a transistor would look like nowadays. Here. And this is a €1 coin for scale. Okay? Now, a transistor is an electronic component that can be used to store information. Now, I don't know if you're familiar on how computers work, but they work with something called the binary system. In other words, ones and zeros, on, off, electricity, no electricity. And this is a super switch that can be turned off and on extremely fast. And your computers work with millions of these. This represents 1 bit, because it can be either a 0 or a 1. And this, on the other hand, this is a modern SD card. And you have 128 billion of these in here. So just think about the scale. 128 billion more times information here than here. A standard photo is what? 5 megabytes? In order to save one photograph, you would need up to 41 million of these. Can you imagine living like this? In your phone, you have like what? 1,000 photos? So picture that image. Now, let's talk about satellites for a second. No space exploration means no satellites, no GPS, and would probably mean that a huge part of the population would have no TV or internet coverage. Can you imagine a country during times like these living without internet and online learning? And I'd like to mention geostations as well. Geostations are fancy and techy satellites that are equipped with cameras that can allow us to predict natural disasters. So, not only does investing in space render our lives easier, but it can also save them.
You have a point of interest?
Yes, I'll take one.
You mentioned the importance of byproducts of space, but you didn't mention how space was necessary to develop them. So my question is, how is space necessary to develop products that will be used on Earth anyway?
Well, I mean, if we have no satellites, we essentially have no communications, and if we have no capacity to have memories, like if we had this instead of technology like this, we wouldn't have phones or computers like as powerful as we have nowadays, and so like us talking like this via Zoom would be impossible. So just think about that. Now, I'd like to talk about actually going to Mars. If we go to Mars by 2024, like CEO of SpaceX Elon Musk wants to do, that would bring 4 positive aspects. Number 1, just like with the Apollo missions, as Nico mentioned, you would encourage millions to pursue careers in the STEM fields. Number 2, colonizing Mars would mean reducing the population of planet Earth, would mean reducing the pollution on planet Earth again, and if you're worried about us harming Mars, well then don't. Mars is yeah, I said no point of information, sorry. So, as I was saying, if we go to Mars, then don't worry. Since it's a dead planet, it has no atmosphere and temperatures below 0, by releasing carbon dioxide, which we excel at, we would be actually helping the planet and reviving it, which is actually ironic. Number 3, then there's the subject of water. experts agree that the next great conflict will be fought over water, since we're running out of it. The same thing goes with rare minerals, which we use to create phones, computers, solar panels, etc. By going there, by going to Mars, those issues will be resolved. Last but not least, having more than just one planet means almost guaranteeing the survival of the human race. Don't take my word for it, take Stephen Hawking's instead. I quote, "Our only chance of long-term survival is not to remain lurking on planet Earth, but to spread out into space." Audience, judges, opponent team, thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have David for Belvoir, please.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes. Like most people, I have a great desire to learn about the wonders of the world in which we live in. However, I also have a deep respect for human life and an understanding that ensuring a high quality of life for those around us, our team, you, me, poor people on the streets, is far more important than satiating our curiosity about absolutely any topic, including space. The exploration of space not only exhausts resources that could be better used elsewhere, but also implies that the welfare of those around us is of less importance than exploring the unknown. As they wisely say, curiosity killed the cat. Ladies, gentlemen, esteemed judges, and members of the opposing team. My name is David Dominguez, and I am the third speaker of the affirmative team. We do not deny that space may be, how should I put it, intriguing in a way, but if we approach the topic with pragmatism, the obviously of the waste of resources that space exploration implies is almost ludicrous. Rather than looking to the stars, as the second speaker said, we ought to consider the problem of our generation and those to come. We ought to consider the suffering from starvation before spending billions of euros on the small chance of learning something new. As President Eisenhower once said,
You have a point of interest?
I mean, you're talking about starving people and everything, but if we take NASA's budget, that's $2.5 billion, and you give that to a starving population, do you think that's going to solve the issue? And you're talking about taxpayers. Do you think that everyone's going to agree on using that money to help other people, which I agree it's a good thing, but do you think it's actually going to solve all those issues? Isn't it a political issue? Pardon me?
I'm sorry, are you denying that using $2.5 billion to help poor people is positive? I think the answer is obvious. It's very positive. Because, as I was saying, President Eisenhower once said that every rocket fire signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, and a theft from those who are cold and are not clothed. Perhaps the most blatant example of the gargantuan costs of space and its negligible benefits is the Mars Climate Orbiter, burning up before sending absolutely any data at a cost of 328 million euros. Would that euros not be able to help poor people? The opposing team denies it, but even Elon Musk, an advocate for space exploration and colonization, recognizes that sending astronauts to Mars would cost around $10 billion per head. And the problems that this money could be used for are nowhere far away from us. For example, yesterday, as I was driving through Palma, I encountered a protest of desperate people who were, due to the COVID situation, struggling to feed their families. My question to the opposing team is the money you say should be thrown into space could not help the people suffering on the streets, our neighbors? My mind are hurt. Tell me
Another point of
no,
interest.
sacrifice humans for them. Accepted?
So you clearly have been centered around the needs of humanity. But the truth is, you've only been talking about short-term solutions. We need long-term solutions. And space exploration is a long-term solution. Therefore, why would you not benefit from space exploration instead of denying it?
Well, as I have proven, space exploration will not help the poor people on the streets. They will not go into space, and they will not go into Mars, as you have suggested, because sending astronauts to Mars would cost around 10 billion US dollars per head. So using the entire Spanish budget, we could only send 50 people into space. And in the world, there are 40 million people who live on less than $1 per day. I think that the effect of sending those 50 million people to Mars is absolutely negligible. As I was saying, my mother heart tell me no one would sacrifice humans for their own benefits. But it is in fact what the opposing team is arguing for. I could perhaps accept the blatant sacrifice of money proposed, but lives, human lives, the celestial morality the opposing team is claiming to uphold, our duty of exploring space absolutely interferes with the protection of human lives. I ask all of you, which is more important? Ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely certain that my neighbors are more important than the unknown. And I am not willing to sacrifice my own gain in terms of curiosity. I reiterate, curiosity killed the cat. Do you want to directly put a bullet in his head? Going into space at all costs? Ladies and gentlemen, space exploration is a waste of resources. As I said, charity begins at home, not in space. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Damien, please. Are you ready? Your microphone is off, Damien.
Okay, it's on.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Damien, and today I will be developing arguments against the motion. Space exploration is most definitely not, is a waste of resources. Curiosity killed the cat. Last time I checked, I'm not a cat, am I? So humans, we have the power to make radical decisions on our environment, which means that by using the power of space exploration, our lives will be changed radically in the long run, which is what we're looking for. Humans have been walking this earth for 6 million years. However, the earth was created 4.54 billion years ago. So, how long have we really been here? For decades now, humanity has been hit with a giant wave of curiosity. What lies after the Milky Way? Are there extraterrestrial creatures living among us or in the exoplanet? And how infinite is outer space? Everyone has asked themselves these questions.
You have a point of interest?
Okay, accept.
You said how infinite is outer space, but the question is how infinite is the amount of resources that you are willing to spend in there?
Well, just as infinite as outer space is, because we don't know what lies ahead. Therefore, you won't score if you don't try, right? On the 20th of July, 1969, 4 astronauts landed on the moon. And for the first time in 6 million years, humans saw the Earth from a radically different viewpoint. Now, you may ask yourselves, what does this really do? We only saw our planet from afar. That doesn't benefit us, does it? Well, space exploration is as such, I'm sorry I will not accept any more, is as such a necessity for humankind. It is not in the nature of a human, of everyone that surrounds us, to be ordinary. Peculiarity and idiosyncrasy runs through our veins. Therefore, nothing will ever stop us from wanting to explore the infinite outer space. Thus, why hold back on millions of years of evolution? The human being was made for exploration. It is a reflex that is bound to our way of life and our thought process. And what is this due to? Well, that's very simple. Curiosity. Curiosity is such are such a powerful feeling, and we humans live off it. It is thanks to curiosity that hospitals were created. It is thanks to curiosity that we explored the royal jungles of the Amazon and discovered life-changing medicines such as medicine and, for the time being, vaccines. Therefore, space exploration will enable humans to live on for generations and generations on end. I'm sorry, as I said before, I'm not going to accept any more points. As I was saying, space exploration will enable humans to live on. There will come a time where humans will cease to exist. This is an incontestable fact. And when that time comes, no one will have the chance to relish nature's prodigiousness. Hence, as the poets of the Renaissance would say, seize your moment. The truth is, we all possess this mental acquisitiveness that forces us to indulge in anything we see. Therefore, whether you disregard space exploration or you don't, it will never, never cease to evoke curiosity in you. And since all of humankind is essentially identical, space exploration will forever be a contributing factor to human development and will therefore fill in the retrogressions that humankind has undergone for its whole history. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, teams, you have 2 minutes to formulate your arguments, and then you will have 2 minutes each to put them across, starting now. So, French Elise is to go first.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, thank you very much for everything. So I just want to start off by, well, answering to the opponent team to their questions, because they made a lot of questions. So here we go. So first of all, your first speaker mentioned that space exploration doesn't bring cooperation between countries. And so I just wanted to say, but give an example, the International Space Station. I don't know if you know this, but the International Space Station was built thanks to the cooperation of Russia and the United States and other European countries. So that's the first example. And we are still currently using it. Space is the only place where countries forget about their differences. Number two, yes, you've been talking a lot about starving people and everything. And I just wanted to mention that, again, 2.5 billion, if you divide it by the population that is in need, that would be less than $1 per person. And if you compare that with all the advancement that we've made, all the opportunities that are being currently created by the technology that we have nowadays, well then it's ridiculous. Number three, you talked about it's costing 10 billion per year to send a person to Mars. Well, actually, SpaceX, the private company, as I've mentioned before, has used a contract of 1 billion with NASA in 3 years, which means they've launched rockets for 3 years for less than $1 billion. And they've launched over 75 rockets. And currently they're building a prototype that costs less than $100 million, the Starship, to launch a rocket to Mars. So I don't know where you get your facts from, but they seem outdated. Last but not least, unlike many sectors, space exploration is still thriving. It hasn't been affected by COVID-19, and therefore it's good. Thank you.
Noah.
Good
Tell me when
morning,
you're ready.
ladies and gentlemen.
Okay,
Sorry?
begin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will be countering some of the points of the opposing team. First, the opposing team just mentioned how space is this sort of pacifist utopia where everybody gets along. But I'd like to remind you that one of the most powerful nations, China, was banned from participating in the ISS. So it's very clear that there is still many tensions in space, as many as there are on Earth, indeed. The opposing team also questioned how $2.4 billion can help people. I'll ask you this. How many soup kitchens could be built and maintained with that money? How many starving and homeless families on the streets could be given state housing and warm meals? How many lives could be saved thanks to $2.4 billion? The first speaker of the opposing team also compared space exploration to the New Deal. However, that New Deal invested valuable resources directly in helping people. It didn't shoot rockets into space and hope that that money would trickle down into helping some of the poor people here at home. I'd like to leave you with this question. Does the expenditure of billions of dollars on a galactic ego trip constitute a waste? I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I pass it over to the judges.
Hello. Oh, there we are. There we are. Well, welcome back to the judges. A very lively discussion once again. And could I ask David to just say a few words in summing up before we go to the spokesperson, Graham?
Indeed. Good morning. Good morning, both teams, and thank you both, all six of you, for excellent contributions. Very, very interesting. You had us moving our opinions one way or the other as you came up with various arguments for and various arguments against. It was a very, very close call for us, both in terms of choosing a winner and indeed choosing a best debater. So all of you deserve huge congratulations. And with that, I'll pass over to Graham to announce the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Yes, well, there were some really excellent arguments. I did like many of the points made. For example, James's point, the 1 in 8 below the poverty line, that sort of point. I loved his expression of the galactic ego trip. I thought that was a great picture story to sort of pull at our hearts about things. Then again, we had, with Damien, we had his curiosity of humans, I thought was very relevant. In fact, interestingly, it was Damien as the last person to speak who made me think about when I actually saw the first spacewalk or the first space landing on the moon. And I thought that sort of argument wasn't put forward by anyone other than Damien at the end about the simple excitement of space exploration, which does make people in the world think, wow, there's something out there. It's not just going to the North Pole or something. There's somewhere even further that we don't know about, that I thought would have been a very good argument for the lycée. Having said all that, we have had a discussion, and the team of judges had James and Damien very close as best debater. We liked both of them. Different styles. James was a very clear, forceful style. Damien's was a very from the heart style. Both did very well, but by the narrowest of margins, we put Damien as the best debater for this session. So congratulations, Damien, that was great.
Gerdy, I don't, if you can hear me, I'm sure you can, would you please prepare the certificate to present to Damien. I think I can see you doing it there. Thank you very much. There we are, Damien. Congratulations. Congratulations on doing, I don't think you can hear me. You've got your speaker on mute, but anyway, for everybody else, congratulations. And I'm sure we'll be getting a nice photograph from you. Thank you. That's better. Congratulations from all of us, Damien. It's not the first time, I know. Well deserved. Thank you. Can we go back to Graham, please, for the summing up and the announcement of the winning team?
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, as I said earlier, there was a lot of enthusiasm on both sides, a lot of good clarity and good clarity of speaking as well. That was most important. At times I thought occasionally well, some of the speakers was perhaps slightly wrapped up in numbers, which can be a bit lost in a debate if too many billions of dollars or pounds are quoted. But the use of visuals was a valuable extra for everybody, and I think that was a very useful thing to do. One point that we did think was perhaps a little negative, and that is that French Lycée did refuse most of the points of information. Now, we appreciate that you've got your own story that you really want to put forward, but part of the style of this sort of debate is to be able to be seen, to be accepting a point of information and dealing with it as you wish. You might deal with it in a couple of words, or you might deal with it with an explanation, but it is important to do that. Visuals, as I said, we enjoyed on both sides. The winning team, well, all did well, as I said, but in fact, on the debate of the day, we have decided that Belver are the winners for this debate. So congratulations to you, Belver.
Hello, Felicitas, are you there to make out the certificate for Belver? Well done, Mr. Chastity, and your team there. Well done, the Belver team. Belver, can you put on your microphone, please? And could we have a picture with Felicitas, and maybe Marlon will be in it as well? There we are, Felicitas. There we are. Thank you very much indeed. I just to let you know that the finals will be held at the end of the month, and Belver, you are now going through to the finals of this season's competition. Congratulations, well done.
Well done.